Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking into the WolfPack 4K 1x4 HDMI splitter, the one with EDID management. Our mission really is to unpack how this specific box handles splitting a signal to 4 screens and, more importantly, why that can be such a headache sometimes.
Exactly. And the baseline here, the absolute foundation, is the tech specs. You need HDMI 2.0 compliance. That's non-negotiable for the bandwidth. And just as critical, it has to be HDCP 2.2 compliant. That's the copy protection, right?
Right.
If your splitter or any device in the chain actually isn't HDCP 2.2 compliant premium 4K content, it just won't play.
Black screen. End of story.
Yeah, that's the killer. And thinking back, HDMI 1.4, the older standard, it did support 4K technically, but only at, 24 or 30 frames per second, and often with limited color.
Exactly. Choppy is a good word for it. That jump to 60 frames per second with HDMI 2.0, it sounds small on paper maybe, but visually, especially for fast motion like sports or gaming, it's night and day. It's about smoothness, immersion.
Immersion, yeah. And that comes down to bandwidth, doesn't it? Absolutely. HDMI 2.0 bumps that bandwidth way up to 18 gigabits per second. That huge data pipe isn't just for more pixels. It's what guarantees that smooth 60 fps. It unlocks high dynamic range, HDR, for better contrast, and it lets you have deep color, 8, 10, even 12-bit color, plus support for wider color spaces like BT 2020, all that good stuff for modern 4K.
Okay, but here's where I think things get really interesting for people tearing their hair out over connections. All that tech is great, but useless if the source device and the TV can't agree on what signal to send. That famous HDMI handshake problem. Which brings us to EDID management, extended display identification data. This feels like the key feature for solving those common setup nightmares.
It really is often the biggest hurdle, especially in more complex setups. EDID management tackles specific problems, like when your source, say your Apple TV or PC, can't figure out what the display can handle because there's a splitter or switch in the middle. Or if you're trying to run, displays with different capabilities, like a new 4K TV in one room and an older 1080p projector, maybe.
Right, the mixed resolution issue.
Yeah, or even just dealing with older TVs that might have outdated EDID information stored in their chips. The source needs clear instructions.
So wait, if I have that 4K TV and the 1080p projector plugged into this splitter, how does it decide? Does it just default low?
That's where the flexibility comes in.
Yeah.
This WolfPack unit has physical DIP switches, little switches on the box, and they give you 8 different EDID modes. You can set it to EDID mix, which, usually tells the source to output the lowest common resolution, like 1080p, so both screens work.
Okay, so it plays it safe.
Or you can override that. You can force it to tell the source, hey, I'm a 4K 60 hertz display using a specific setting. Or you might prioritize audio, maybe forcing a setting like 1080p with 5.1 channel audio. You're manually controlling that handshake.
That manual control seems vital for custom installs or troubleshooting. Okay, moving on slightly. Convenience features. Let's touch on CEC. Consumer Electronics Control.
Yes, CEC, the dream of the single remote. It's the tech that lets your TV remote potentially control, like, up to 10 other HDMI devices, powering things on together, basic playback controls, that kind of thing, designed for simplicity.
Potentially being the key word there, right?
Yeah.
Because the source has highlighted a big caveat. Manufacturer implementation varies wildly. LG calls it Simple Link. Sony often limits it just to other Sony gear.
Exactly. It's a fantastic idea, but the interoperability between brands is, it's hit or miss. Often missed.
Something to keep in mind when you're buying components.
Definitely. And just quickly, this splitter also mentions an optional IR extension letting you control the source device from near the display, and RS-232 support for firmware updates, future-proofing, essentially.
Okay, so let's wrap this deep dive up.
Yeah.
The big takeaways seem to be, for reliable 4K distribution, you absolutely need that 18 Gbps bandwidth from HDMI 2.0, no question. And perhaps just as importantly, you need smart, ideally user-controllable EDID management to prevent those handshake failures between devices.
That really covers the core tech. And it leaves us with, maybe, a final thought for you to chew on. If manufacturers are still creating walled gardens with features like CEC, limiting how well different brands play together, what other hidden compatibility issues might you run into in trying to build that perfect, seamless home theater system with gear from various companies? Something to investigate.